I was on my way to my niece's apartment for a game night, eagerly anticipating a relaxed evening with family when my attorney, Mr. Harrison, sent an urgent message. "Call me immediately." My heart pounded. I dialed his number, and what he told me about my niece, Clara, left me utterly stunned. You won't believe what she was trying to do. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below letting me know what time it is where you are right now. My hands were steady, reviewing the quarterly earnings of Evergreen Innovations, when my phone buzzed. The screen displayed, "Mr. Harrison, urgent." The pen slipped from my fingers. For 30 years, I, Arthur Hayes, had built Evergreen Innovations from the ground up, and never once had Mr. Harrison used the word urgent concerning my family. I answered before the screen went dark. "Arthur," his voice was tight with professional concern, "I need to warn you. Clara has filed a petition. She's seeking to have you declared unfit to manage Evergreen Innovations." The words struck me like a blast of icy wind. "What are you talking about? That's impossible. She's my niece, my flesh and blood. She's assembled a group of minority shareholders," Mr. Harrison explained. "They claim you've lost your touch due to emotional instability." I sank into my chair, the panoramic view of Emerald City's skyline from my floor-to-ceiling windows blurring before my eyes. This was the same view I had cherished for decades, the same company I had painstakingly built, intending for her to eventually lead. "How much time do we have?" My voice was barely a whisper. "The hearing is in 1 week. We need to act fast." My mouth went dry. 1 week? Mr. Harrison. She must have been planning this for months. Indeed, the documentation is extensive. Financial records supposedly showing erratic decisions, testimonies from board meetings. I stood, pacing between my mahogany desk and the window. Rain streaked the glass, like tears I couldn't shed. What testimonies? Claims about emotional outbursts, questionable strategic choices. They're painting you as a man losing control. That's absurd. But even as I said it, a sliver of doubt crept in. Had I been too vocal in recent meetings? Had I defended my long-standing strategies too vehemently? I know it is, Arthur, but they have paperwork, and lots of it. The spacious office suddenly felt claustrophobic. The awards lining the walls, the photographs of groundbreaking ceremonies. All meaningless if my own niece could strip it away. Who else knows? The filing is sealed for now, but the shareholders she's recruited, Mrs. Albright, Mr. Finch, and 3 others, are meeting tomorrow. I gripped the phone tighter. She recruited them with promises of higher dividends under new leadership, her leadership. The betrayal cut deeper than any business loss I had ever endured. Clara, my brilliant, ambitious niece, the one I had mentored to eventually take over. But not like this. Never like this. "What do you need from me?" "Everything. Financial records, medical documentation proving your competence, character witnesses. We're building a defense from scratch in 7 days." I closed my eyes. 48 hours ago, I had been considering announcing her promotion to Chief Operating Officer within the year. Now, she was trying to destroy me. "Arthur, are you still there?" "I'm here." My voice sounded hollow. "Schedule whatever meetings you need. I'll clear my calendar." "Good. And Arthur, don't confront her yet. We need to understand their strategy first." After hanging up, I sat in the growing darkness. Emerald City's lights twinkled below, but the warmth had drained from the room, and from my life. I gathered my things mechanically. Coat, briefcase, keys. The same routine I had followed for 30 years, but everything had changed in one phone call. The elevator descended in silence. 50 floors down, my legs felt unsteady. In the parking garage, I sat in my car for 10 minutes, hands on the steering wheel, trying to make sense of it all. Clara was hosting her weekly game night with her family tonight. Should I go? Should I pretend nothing had happened? The thought of sitting across from her, making small talk while she plotted my downfall, was sickening. But maybe I needed to see her face, study her expressions, understand who my niece had become. I started the engine and pulled into Emerald City's evening traffic, heading toward the bustling district of Northwood. Toward answers I wasn't sure I wanted to find. Clara's front door opened before I could knock. She stood there in a comfortable knit sweater, her smile perfectly calibrated. Uncle Arthur, right on time. Her hug felt somewhat rehearsed. Come in, it's chilly out there. I scrutinized her face for any hint of a crack in her composure, but found none. Lily has been asking about Grandpa all day. Clara led me through the foyer. She drew you another picture. The house smelled of homemade pizza and unspoken lies. I followed her into the open-plan living room where Liam, her husband, was setting up the board games. He looked up with a strained smile. Arthur, good to see you. His handshake lingered a moment too long. Can I get you anything? Craft beer? Something stronger? A seltzer is fine, I replied, watching Clara move around the room, efficient and controlled, just as she was in a board meeting. Lily bounded in, wearing paint-splattered overalls. Grandpa! I lifted her easily, grateful for something genuine in this house of pretense. What's this I hear about a picture? It's us at the office. See, that's you at your big desk, and that's me in the spinning chair. She thrust a crayon drawing at me. Stick figures in what vaguely resembled Evergreen Innovations logo colors. Innocent, trusting. Everything her mother wasn't. It's beautiful, sweetheart. I kissed her forehead, catching Clara watching us. Something flickered across her expression. Guilt? Calculation? Lily, wash your hands for dinner. Liam interjected, his voice a little too bright. Clara moved between the kitchen and the living room with practiced efficiency. Uncle Arthur, you look tired. Maybe you should take a break. The loaded question. I met her eyes. Work keeps me sharp. By the way, how are things in the product development department? She paused, a wooden spoon halfway to her mouth for tasting. Let's not talk about work at game night. Since when? I kept my tone light. You usually love discussing next-gen tech. Not tonight. She turned back to the kitchen. Family time is sacred. Sacred like loyalty used to be. Liam cleared his throat. Lily drew that picture during her art class today. She's been talking about visiting the office again. Maybe next week, I said, wondering if I'd still have an office next week. Lily climbed into her booster seat. Grandpa, can you tell the story about the first ever innovation? Which story, sweetheart? When you built the company in the garage. I glanced at Clara. She was slicing the pizza with surgical precision. That was before your mommy was born. We had nothing but ideas and determination. And Grandma Eleanor helped. Lily added. The knife paused. Clara's shoulders tensed. Yes, I said softly. Grandma Eleanor helped with everything. Silence stretched. Liam filled it by turning on background music, something classical and unobtrusive. The game night proceeded with artificial normalcy. Lily chattered about kindergarten. Liam discussed his latest civic architecture project. Clara asked polite questions about my health, my sleep, whether I was eating properly. Every word felt like reconnaissance. The pizza is excellent, I said. Mom's recipe. Clara's voice carried an edge. She always said cooking was about love, not perfection. Another loaded statement. Eleanor had often said that, usually while trying to get me to spend less time at the office. She was wise about many things. Yes, she was. Clara's fork clicked against her plate. She understood priorities. The accusation hung in the air. Lily looked between us, sensing the unspoken tension. Grandpa, why are you sad? Out of the mouths of babes. I'm not sad, sweetheart. Just thinking. About what? About how much I love our family game nights. Clara's eyes met mine across the table. For a moment, I saw the little girl who used to wait by the window for me to come home. But the moment passed. More seltzer? Liam asked, already reaching for the bottle. The evening crawled forward. Dessert? Lily showing me her latest drawings. Normal family rituals masking an extraordinary betrayal. At 8:15, I stood to leave. Thank you for the evening. As always, it was perfect. Clara walked me to the door. Uncle Arthur, are you sure you're okay? You seem different tonight. I studied her face. The concern looked genuine. Maybe it was. Maybe she had convinced herself this was for my own good. I'm fine, sweetheart. Just reflecting on how much Evergreen means to me, to our family. Something shifted in her expression. A guard going up. Drive safely. The roads are slick tonight. I kissed her cheek. She didn't pull away, but she didn't lean into it either. Good night, Clara. Good night, Uncle Arthur. The door closed behind me with a soft click. I stood on her front steps, rain beginning to fall again. Through the window, I could see her clearing dishes, moving efficiently, methodically. Planning my destruction, I parked overlooking Lake Harmony, city lights reflecting off the black water. My hands shook as I dialed Mr. Harrison again. Arthur, how did game night go? Like a performance. She knows how to act concerned while stabbing me in the back. Rain drummed on the windshield. Tell me everything. She's been preparing for 6 months. She has records of my emotional outbursts at meetings. What outbursts? I've always controlled myself. The Nexus acquisition meeting, when you rejected their initial lowball offer. Apparently, you raised your voice. She documented it as irrational anger threatening company relationships. I remembered that meeting. I've been passionate, not angry. There was a difference. What else? Financial decisions she's labeled as sentiment over strategy. The charity partnership with Eleanor's foundation, the employee wellness program, things that cost money but weren't strictly profitable. My throat tightened. Those were good decisions. I know, but she's framing them as emotional choices rather than sound business logic. I started the engine, needing to move. What's her timeline? Hearing next Friday. If she wins, she gets temporary control while you undergo psychological evaluation. And if you refuse, the shareholders can vote you out anyway. She's got enough backing. I drove through empty Emerald City streets, processing the scope of her betrayal. Not just attacking me, but meticulously dismantling everything I had built. At home, I climbed to my study. 30 years of memories lined the walls. Awards, photos, the detritus of a successful life. I opened my safe and pulled out Eleanor's letters, the ones she had written during her final months when she knew she was dying, when she tried to warn me about priorities. Clara needs your attention more than the company does. She thinks you don't love her. I had dismissed Eleanor's concerns then. Clara was successful, independent, thriving. How could she doubt my love? But doubt had apparently festered into something darker. I found the folder marked Clara Personal. School records, report cards, photos from company events where she had stood beside me, proud and eager, when had that pride curdled into resentment. My computer chimed with an encrypted email from Mr. Harrison. Legal documents. Clara's formal petition, dense with accusations and medical recommendations. Subject displays increasing emotional volatility and attachment to outdated business practices. His refusal to embrace modern corporate strategies suggests diminished cognitive flexibility, consistent with early-stage dementia or depression following spousal loss. Depression following spousal loss. They were using Eleanor's death against me. Using my grief as evidence of incompetence, that I poured 3 fingers of whiskey and kept reading. Character witnesses who would testify to my declining judgment. Financial analysts who would argue my decisions were emotionally driven. Medical experts prepared to suggest I needed compassionate intervention. A full-scale character assassination wrapped in concern for my well-being. The brilliance was undeniable and painful at 1 a.m. I closed the laptop and sat in darkness. Rain continued against the windows. The house felt enormous and empty. Eleanor's photograph watched from my desk. She had known this day would come, had tried to prevent it. She doesn't understand why you love the company more than her. But I didn't love the company more. I had built it for her, for our family's future. Every late night, every missed dinner, every sacrifice had been for them. Somehow I had failed to communicate that. Failed to show Clara that my ambition was love expressed in the only language I knew. Now she was speaking a different language, the language of corporate warfare, and she had learned it well. Too well. I opened my phone and started typing notes. Names of allies, potential strategies, ways to prove my competence while dismantling her case. If Clara wanted a war, she would get one. But she had underestimated her opponent. I hadn't built Evergreen Innovations by surrendering to superior forces. I had built it by outthinking them. Dawn was still hours away, but I felt something stirring, not just anger or hurt, but strategy, purpose. My niece had declared war on everything I had built, everything I was. Time to remind her who taught her how to fight. The elevator climbed toward David's floor with deliberate precision. I shifted the briefcase containing 2 weeks of evidence. Time to stop playing defense. David Wilson's corner office occupied the same building as mine, 3 floors down. Same view of Lake Harmony, different perspective on everything else. His assistant waved me through. "He's expecting you, Mr. Hayes." David looked up from quarterly projections, reading glasses perched on his nose. 60 years of friendship shone in those familiar blue eyes. "Arthur." Perfect timing. I was just reviewing the latest reports. "We need to talk." I set the briefcase on his conference table with a deliberate thud. "Close the door." Something in my tone made him move quickly. The door clicked shut. "What's wrong?" "Clara is trying to have me declared incompetent." David's face went through 3 expressions in 2 seconds. Confusion, disbelief, concern. "That's impossible." I opened the briefcase. Legal documents spread across the polished table like battle plans. "She filed suit 2 weeks ago, seeking temporary control while I undergo psychological evaluation." David sank into his chair. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I needed to understand the scope first." I pulled out the shareholder analysis. "Look at this." The document showed our investor base mapped like a military campaign. Green for loyal, red for convinced by Clara, yellow for undecided. "Too much red." "Albright's already committed," I said. "Patricia Finch too, and 3 others." David studied the names. "Arthur. She promised Albright a 15% dividend increase based on what? Staff cuts. She talks about implementing advanced automation and AI. I felt something cold settle in my chest. That would destroy the company culture we built for 30 years. But young shareholders don't understand this. They only care about numbers. David had been monitoring internal communications. Co-founder privileges included access to company email systems. The intelligence he'd gathered painted a clear picture. Clara had been methodical. Each shareholder approached with tailored promises. Albright got profit projections. Finch received efficiency studies. Others heard modernization speeches. "She's selling them a fantasy," I said. "A profitable fantasy." David pulled up email chains on his computer. "Look at these revenue forecasts she's sharing." The numbers were aggressive, unrealistic, based on firing half our senior staff and automating customer service. This isn't innovation. It's corporate vandalism. Try explaining that to shareholders watching tech stocks soar. I spread financial reports across the table. Our actual performance over 3 years. Steady growth, consistent profits, satisfied employees. We've averaged 12% annual growth, I said. Our retention rate is 94%. Customer satisfaction scores are industry-leading. But she's promising 25% growth through strategic restructuring. The phrase made me sick. Strategic restructuring. Corporate speak for destroying lives. What about Albright? Is he completely lost? David leaned back. Maybe not. He respects long-term stability, but he's scared of missing the next big wave. Then we remind him what happens to companies that chase every trend. I pulled out a folder marked competition analysis. Companies that had followed Clara's preferred strategy. Most had imploded within 5 years. Remember Innovate Now? David nodded grimly. Automated everything. Stock price tripled. Then customer service collapsed. Exactly. They're worth 20% of their peak now. We spent the next hour mapping strategy. Which shareholders could be saved, what evidence would convince them, how to present our case without seeming desperate. The rain outside had intensified. February in Emerald City meant constant gray skies. Perfect weather for corporate warfare. There's something else, David said quietly. Her legal representation. Sophia Blake. Mr. Harrison briefed me. She's good. Aggressive. Turns courtrooms into theater. Then we give her a better show. David's computer chimed with a calendar reminder. Board meeting next week. Routine quarterly review. She'll make her move there, I said. Unless we move first. I closed the briefcase but left the analysis documents spread across David's table. Visual evidence of our campaign. Schedule a meeting with Albright, I said. This week, private lunch. What's your angle? Fear. Show him what happens to investors who bet against proven leadership. David was already reaching for his phone, scrolling through contacts. Thursday works. The summit downtown. Perfect. Neutral ground. The afternoon light was fading outside. In 2 hours, I'd transformed from victim to general. Clara wanted a war. She'd get one. But she'd underestimated her enemy. I hadn't built Evergreen Innovations by surrendering to superior forces. I'd built it by outthinking them. Mr. Harrison's law office occupied the 20th floor of the Grand Tower. All mahogany and leather-bound authority. I arrived 10 minutes early, briefcase heavy with David's intelligence. The receptionist offered coffee. I accepted. This would be a long morning. Mr. Hayes. Mr. Harrison appeared in his office doorway. Ready for war? His conference room had been transformed into a command center. Clara's lawsuit documents covered one wall. My defense materials occupied another. Between them, empty space waiting for battle plans. Show me everything, I said to Mr. Harrison lifted a thick folder. Clara's official petition. 47 pages of accusations, evidence, and medical recommendations. I flipped through pages of surgical character assassination. Every passionate defense of company values reframed as emotional instability. Every innovative risk repositioned as declining judgment. She claims you've lost touch with market reality. Our profits grew 12% last year, but she says that's due to her initiatives, not yours. Classic rewriting history with herself as the hero. What about her evidence? Mr. Harrison pulled out a separate stack. 6 months of documentation. Meetings where you allegedly showed inappropriate emotional responses. Financial decisions she labels as sentiment over strategy. The Nexus acquisition, the charity partnership with Eleanor's Foundation, the employee wellness program. All good decisions, all profitable in the long term, all dismissed as emotional weakness. And her legal representation, Sophia Blake. Mr. Harrison's expression darkened. 38 wins in 42 competency hearings. She specializes in family business disputes, meaning she knows how to make loving fathers look like declining patriarchs. I studied Blake's photograph on Mr. Harrison's computer. Sharp features, predatory smile. A woman who'd built a career on destroying family legacies. Sophia Blake is known for turning court sessions into theater. Then we write a better script. Mr. Harrison pulled out our defense strategy. Character witnesses, financial evidence, medical evaluations proving my mental acuity. I've scheduled cognitive assessments with 3 independent doctors. Blood work, psychological evaluations, complete physical. Overkill? Necessary. Blake will question your competence from every angle. The irony was bitter. At 62, I was sharper than most men half my age. But Clara had weaponized my grief over Eleanor's death. She's claiming delayed trauma response, emotional deterioration following spousal loss, manifesting in poor business judgment and increased volatility, using Eleanor's memory against me. The calculation was breathtaking. What's our counter-strategy? Mr. Harrison smiled for the first time that morning. Turn her greatest strength into weakness. He spread out our own evidence. Clara's promises to shareholders, unrealistic financial projections, email chains showing her 6-month deception campaign. We're filing a countersuit for what? Breach of fiduciary duty, conspiracy to defraud shareholders, intentional infliction of emotional distress. The last charge felt personal, which it was. Will it work? It'll force her to defend her own actions instead of just attacking yours. Mr. Harrison produced a formal document, our counter-lawsuit. 23 pages of legal accusations wrapped in corporate language. She'll be furious. Good. Angry people make mistakes. I signed the papers with steady hands. No trembling now, just cold determination. When do we file? Today. Blake will have it by 5 p.m. The rain outside had turned to sleet. February in Emerald City was always brutal. Perfect weather for legal warfare. One more thing, Mr. Harrison said. The hearing date? March 15th. 3 weeks. I calculated rapidly. Enough time to prepare witnesses. If we move fast. Mr. Harrison's assistant knocked. Excuse me, Mr. Wilson is here for the 11:30 appointment. David entered carrying his own briefcase. The alliance was expanding. Gentlemen, he said, ready to save our company. The three of us stood around the conference table, looking at the evidence of family betrayal spread across polished mahogany. Clara wanted to play legal games, I said. Now she gets to learn the rules. Outside, Emerald City's skyline disappeared into gray mist. But inside this room, clarity was crystallizing. War had been declared. Positions had been chosen. Time to remind my niece who taught her how to fight. I arrived 15 minutes early, choosing a table by the window overlooking the market's controlled chaos. March in Emerald City brought tentative spring warmth, vendors hawking early flowers beneath cloudy skies. The coffee was bitter, appropriate. Clara appeared at 2:15 sharp, dressed in her charcoal business suit, armored for battle. She surveyed the cafe before approaching, calculating exits and witnesses. Uncle Arthur. She sat across from me, maintaining distance. Thank you for coming. Your message said it was important. I studied her face. She looked tired, thinner than at our last game night. Carrying the weight of deception wasn't easy, even for her. How's Lily? Fine. Asking about you. The words carried accusation. I was the absent grandfather, the workaholic father, the man who chose business over family. And Liam? Busy with his projects. Her voice was carefully neutral. We were dancing around the real conversation, two combatants testing defenses before engaging. Clara, why didn't you come to me directly? Something flickered in her expression. Surprise. Guilt. About what? Still maintaining the lie. Impressive. About your concerns, your ideas for the company, your plans. When I tried, you were always busy with the company. There it was, the heart of everything. I built this for you. Her laugh was bitter. No, Uncle Arthur. You built it for yourself. I was just an addition. The accusation hit like a physical blow. That's not true, isn't it? She leaned forward, anger breaking through her careful control. Every family dinner interrupted by business calls. Every vacation cut short for meetings. Every school play you missed because of board presentations. Memories flooded back. Eleanor's disappointed face. Clara's resigned acceptance when I couldn't attend her college graduation ceremony. I was providing for our family. You were feeding your ego. Silence stretched between us. Market vendors called their prices outside. Normal life continuing while we dissected 35 years of accumulated hurt. I want to modernize the company, but you block all my initiatives. I want to preserve what works. What works? Her voice rose slightly. Uncle Arthur, we're falling behind. Tech companies are outpacing us. Our systems are outdated. Our methods are antiquated. Our methods built something lasting, something stable, something dying. She pulled out her phone, showing me industry projections, charts, and graphs that painted Evergreen Innovations as a dinosaur waiting for extinction. Automation could increase our efficiency by 40%. AI implementation could cut operational costs in half. Remote work options could expand our talent pool globally and eliminate half our workforce in the process. Some positions would be restructured, destroyed. I finished. You're talking about destroying lives, families, People who've given us decades of loyalty. Her jaw tightened. Business isn't about loyalty, Uncle Arthur. It's about results. When did you become so cold? When I realized sentiment doesn't pay dividends. The words hung between us like a blade. This wasn't my niece speaking. This was someone else entirely. Who taught you that? You did. She met my eyes directly. Every time you chose the company over us. Every time you proved that success mattered more than people. I felt something break inside my chest. Not anger. Not betrayal. But understanding. I never meant. You never meant a lot of things, Uncle Arthur. But intentions don't change results. She gathered her phone and purse. Clara, wait. She stood, looking down at me with Eleanor's eyes in a stranger's face. I'm not the little girl waiting by the window anymore. I don't need your approval. I don't need your permission. And I don't need your company. But you want it. I want to save it from you. She turned and walked toward the exit, heels clicking against the hardwood floor. At the doorway, she paused. Give Lily my love. Then she was gone, disappearing into the market crowd that I sat alone with cold coffee and colder understanding. My niece wasn't just taking my company. She was taking revenge for 35 years of perceived neglect. And maybe she was right. The courthouse steps were slick with morning rain. I climbed them slowly, briefcase in hand, watching Clara's legal team arrange themselves like predators. Sophia Blake stood at their center, her sharp suit gleaming under gray Emerald City skies. Clara wore navy blue, conservative, competent. The beautiful niece protecting family assets from a declining patriarch. She didn't meet my eyes. Inside, the courtroom buzzed with quiet energy. Shareholders filled the gallery, business reporters, curious attorneys drawn by family drama played out in public. Mr. Harrison touched my arm. Remember, stay calm. Answer clearly. Judge Albright called court to order. 70 years old, silver hair, a reputation for no-nonsense proceedings. Case number 2025-347. Hayes versus Evergreen Innovations, Incorporated. Sophia Blake rose like a striking snake. Your Honor, this case concerns an aging executive whose judgment has become compromised by grief and stubbornness. She walked toward the jury box, gesturing elegantly, performance art masquerading as legal argument. Mr. Hayes has lost the ability to make rational decisions. His emotional attachment to outdated business practices threatens shareholder value and employee security. Documents flew across the screen. Financial charts, meeting transcripts, 6 months of carefully curated evidence. The plaintiff, Ms. Clara Hayes-Miller, seeks temporary guardianship to protect the company her uncle built from his own declining capabilities. Blake's voice carried across the courtroom like honey-coated poison. Professional, persuasive, deadly. Then Clara took the witness stand. My niece, my brilliant, ambitious niece, sworn in under oath to destroy me. Ms. Hayes-Miller, Blake began softly. Please describe your uncle's recent behavior. My uncle is guided by emotions, not business logic. Clara's voice stayed steady. He makes decisions based on personal feelings rather than financial data. Can you provide examples? The charity partnership with my mother's foundation costs us $200,000 annually with no measurable return. When I suggested redirecting those funds, he became agitated. Agitated? Eleanor's memory reduced to a line item. What about strategic planning? He refuses to consider automation or AI integration. Claims it would destroy company culture. Meanwhile, our competitors gain market share through technological advancement. Blake nodded sympathetically. How has this affected company performance? We're stagnating. Growth has slowed. Efficiency metrics lag behind industry standards. Lies wrapped in half-truths. Our growth was steady, sustainable. Our employees were loyal because we treated them as people, not resources. In your professional opinion, what does the company need? Fresh leadership, modern strategies. Focus on profits rather than sentiment. The words hit like physical blows. This wasn't my niece speaking. This was someone else entirely. Mr. Harrison's cross-examination was surgical. Ms. Hayes-Miller, what was Evergreen Innovations' profit margin last quarter? 12%. And the quarter before? 11.7%. So, under your uncle's supposedly incompetent leadership, profits are increasing. Short-term fluctuations don't indicate long-term viability. What about employee retention? 94% annually. Industry average. Clara hesitated. 67%. So your uncle maintains higher employee satisfaction than industry standard while increasing profits. Retention can indicate resistance to necessary change. Mr. Harrison smiled coldly. Or exceptional leadership. Blake objected. Judge sustained, but the damage was done. Mrs. Albright testified next. Straightforward, profit-focused. We need leadership that prioritizes shareholder value. Ms. Hayes-Miller understands modern business realities. When the morning session ended, I felt drained. Watching your niece publicly dissect your competence required a strength I didn't know I possessed. But Mr. Harrison squeezed my shoulder. Phase 1 complete, Arthur. Tomorrow we fight back. Outside, Emerald City's spring rain continued. Clara walked past without acknowledging me, surrounded by her legal team. My little girl, who used to wait by the window for Uncle Arthur to come home. Now she couldn't wait for me to disappear. My assistant knocked softly. Mr. Hayes, there's something you need to see. Sarah placed a folder on my desk marked Employee Communications, Confidential. Her face was grim. Clara's been holding private meetings, promising salary increases that would bankrupt us. I opened the folder. Meeting transcripts, email threads, 6 weeks of secret promises to key employees. 20% salary increases across engineering, 30% for department heads, stock options that didn't exist. Where did you get this? People talk, Mr. Hayes, especially when promises sound too good to be true. David Wilson arrived as I was reading the worst of it. His expression matched Sarah's. We have a problem, Arthur. He dropped his own briefcase on the conference table. Clara is approaching new shareholders, pension funds, investment groups, painting you as an obstacle to explosive growth. David pulled out printed emails. Clara promises employees 20% salary increases based on what? Magic. She's telling them automation will cut costs so dramatically that massive raises are inevitable. The mathematics were impossible. Even full automation wouldn't generate enough savings for her promised increases. She's committing fraud. It gets better. David powered up his laptop. I've been monitoring internal communications. Found something interesting about her lawyer. Sophia Blake's face appeared on screen, a professional photograph attached to a news article. Blake was sanctioned by the Bar Association 2 years ago. Suborned perjury in a similar case. Temporarily suspended from practice. My phone rang. Mr. Harrison's number. Arthur, I have evidence that Sophia Blake violated ethical standards. What kind of evidence? She coached Clara's testimony. Told her exactly what to say, how to phrase accusations. That's witness tampering. The pieces were falling into place. Clara's polished performance hadn't been natural confidence. It had been scripted. More importantly, Mr. Harrison continued, I found financial irregularities in Clara's account management. What irregularities? Clara transferred funds between accounts without your consent. 3 separate occasions. Total amount, $847,000. The number hit like ice water. For what? Legal fees, consultant payments, campaign expenses for her takeover bid. I looked at David. His expression confirmed he was hearing this too. That's embezzlement. Technically, it's unauthorized use of corporate funds, but yes, it's criminal behavior. David leaned forward. This could change the case direction. More than change it. This could destroy her. The irony was bitter. My niece had wanted to prove my incompetence by demonstrating her own criminal stupidity. That I walked to the window, looking out at Emerald City's skyline. The city where I'd built everything, where Eleanor had lived and died, where our family had grown and fractured. Mr. Harrison, how do we present this? carefully. We don't want to look vindictive, just competent. And Blake's ethics violations. I'll file a complaint with the Bar Association. Simultaneously present evidence to the judge. David was organizing documents across my conference table. Financial records, employee communications, email chains showing Clara's deception. The question is timing, I said. Next hearing is Monday. Blake will expect us on defense again. Instead, we attack. I studied the evidence spread across my office. 30 years of building a company, and my niece had tried to destroy it with 6 months of lies. But lies eventually revealed themselves. Schedule a meeting with our character witnesses. I want them prepared for aggressive cross-examination. David nodded. Already done. Patricia from accounting, David from engineering. They'll testify to your competence and her deceptions. What about the employees she made promises to? Most are confused. They trusted her, but the numbers don't add up. The late afternoon sun slanted through my office windows. Emerald City in April could be beautiful when the rain stopped. I'll head home early, I said. Plan our presentation tonight. David gathered his documents. We've got enough ammunition to sink a battleship. Let's hope we can aim it accurately. After they left, I sat alone in my office. The silence felt different now, not empty, but focused. Tomorrow we'd remind everyone who built Evergreen Innovations and why it deserved better than my niece's desperate ambitions. The courthouse felt different this time. Tension crackled like electricity as all parties assembled. Clara sat with Blake, confident from their previous performance. They hadn't seen what was coming. Judge Albright called court to order. Mr. Harrison, you may present additional evidence. Mr. Harrison rose slowly, deliberately, a predator who'd found wounded prey. Your Honor, the plaintiff conducted unauthorized financial operations. Blake shot to her feet. Objection. This is beyond the scope. Overruled. Continue, Mr. Harrison. Mr. Harrison approached the evidence table like a surgeon selecting instruments. During discovery, we found 3 unauthorized transfers from corporate accounts. Total amount, $847,000. The number echoed through the courtroom. Clara's face went pale. These funds were used to finance Ms. Hayes-Miller's legal campaign against her uncle without board approval, without documentation, without authorization. Mr. Harrison projected bank statements onto the courtroom screen. Dates, amounts, recipient accounts. This constitutes embezzlement of corporate funds. Blake was scrambling. Your Honor, these accusations are desperate attempts at discreditation. Desperate. Mr. Harrison smiled coldly. These are bank records. Mathematics doesn't lie. He turned toward Clara. She looked smaller somehow. The confident executive replaced by a trapped woman watching her world collapse. Furthermore, we have evidence of witness tampering. Blake's composure cracked completely.